Hey guys, so it's been about 1 month since I got the Tecware Forge, and I said I was going to do a dust test. So I haven't cleaned it at all. I've only run my finger over the front a couple times, and my phone isn't good enough to show how bright the room is. Like, the room is a lot brighter than if I turn the flash off. So you're just gonna have to bear with me with the phone light. But you can see from about this distance, it's pretty close to what you'd see like in real life. You can't really see the dust on the front, and on the side you can see the components from the light of the camera, but you can't really see any dust. So to actually see how much dust is built up, I have to go a lot closer, and then the phone light, if the phone light was off and you're just in the room, you can't actually see much dust. You can only see like a tiny speck here. Wait, I'll turn the light back on. You can see a speck here, and well, you can see that there's actually dust there, but it's not really visible to the naked eye without a flashlight. So if I run my hand over it, you can see that's where I can start to see the dust build up on the front, which is kind of like a poor dust filter. It's not working super well. Let's see if I turn this. No, I really need the LEDs on to show it properly. I'll just turn the case LEDs on. Come on, fans. Okay, that's not working for the fans. One sec. There we go. Okay. So you still. Nope. Even. Here we go. There you can see some of the dust that has built up when from rubbing my hand on it. And if I actually hold it up, it's like spiderweb style dust. It's not really fine dust. It's just bigger strands that have got caught on the front mesh. But without a flashlight, you can't see it. So it's not filtering so much dust that it's affecting the aesthetic of the case with the lights on, or with the lights off, unless you have a really bright room. And moving to the top, I did leave the top dust filter on, just, you know, for a test to see if dust getting through is getting pushed up underneath, because I've got I added one 140 exhausting, and I left the front area open, and it looks like there's a very, yeah, you can see it on camera, a very fine layer of dust buildup on the inside from that 140mm fan. And it's actually in the pattern of the fan, what do you call it, frame. You can see the kind of cross pattern in the middle. So this dust filter is trapping dust. It's not helping dust to get out, because you can see on the other side, oh, that's an angle that, yeah, if I put it at the right angle, you can see the dust on the inside, but looking at it in person, you can't actually see dust buildup. It looks more like this when I hold it at this angle. That's what it looks like. It looks very similar to the front portion that's got no dust buildup there. So you can see the other side without the fan. Like, there's a very thin layer of dust, but it's not actual buildup. I mean, it's not the same. Just dropped it. So this is the fan end. Try to get a better angle. There's a thin layer of dust buildup where there was no fan from exhausting, but it's within range of dust you'd have on like a desk that you can't really see without the right kind of light. So, if I turn this light off, there you can, okay, put it somewhere here with a bit more light. Yeah, you can't really see it without bright lighting. So that's the level of dust buildup on the front and the top. At least we can confirm this dust filter is having a reverse effect for exhaust. So it's better off. And let's see here. So you can see the dust that I've cleaned off with my finger. Like, see, there's a bit of, it's only really visible because I've gathered it up. Like, there's dust all along, where are we? All along here, but you can't really see it without a light until I run my finger and gather it up. So, and I'd say my room's like on the low to mid dust range. of like average dust buildup. So that's, it's like cotton fur, like stuff that's been floating in the air. But you know, we have the windows closed and it's through an AC with a filter. But anyway, moving on. Going to the inside, you can see straight away that there is noticeable fabric type dust all across the front panel, the side panel, sorry. And there's a layer, I don't know if you can see it on camera. So there we go, that's the dust buildup. It looks a lot worse than it is. If I turn the bright phone light off, you can't even see it. Like that light, the shimmer here is actually from the RGBs. It's not dust shimmer. But you can see, oh well, if I run my finger there, of course you can see that there is a little bit, but it's not that bad. I'll turn the RGB brightness back up though, just to try to show it a bit more. Like here on the side, there's basically none. Is that dust? Oh, that's from my finger though. So I'll go through different colors to see if I can reveal more dust, but yeah, it's fairly low. I have to turn this on to really see it. Like you can see it. There's dust there. I'm just saying the visibility of the dust is not that high without a bright light. So just normal RGBs don't show it that well. The side panel is more noticeable, but it's because of the way the RGBs are reflecting on it. If I turn the RGBs off, you can't even see the dust on the side panel very easily. So anyway, we'll move on to the GPU, and you can see there's a similar dust buildup on the back of the GPU. So if you do care about dust a lot, then maybe this isn't the case for you, or if you have a really dusty environment, because honestly, if you try to dust-proof this thing, you'd have to remove the front panel, or try to stick, like, you don't want a dust filter behind the fans, because then the fans are still going, you know, they're going to have to push through it, so you're hindering airflow, and the fan blades are going to get dirty. So ideally, you want the dust filter in front of the fans, and you don't want it on top of this cover, because then it ruins the aesthetic. So you'd want it under the cover. You'd have to pop this front off, and really you'd be going through a lot of trouble, and you'd be defeating the purpose of a high airflow case by putting a dust filter on the front. And flipping them I don't think would work that well either, because then it would be, you'd have intake at the other end and it just wouldn't be optimal airflow. You'd have to filter the rear fan if you wanted that to be intake. The top could be intake with the included filter, but I think GPU temps would suffer, because where's the GPU going to get fresh air if it's not coming in from the front? The GPU would be basically, hot air from the CPU would go this way. The GPU would be pulling in, I don't know, it would be pulling in air from the PCIe slots. That would be the closest source of fresh air if the front is exhausting. So that's not really an option, not a good option too. So yeah, if you can handle dust, you don't mind cleaning, I think this case would last at least 3 months. Even though the camera does make it look worse than it is. See with the lights off, you can't make out the dust very well. I need to go to like another, maybe white. White's there we go. White shows it a bit better. So this is with my phone thing off, phone light off. You can see the dust, but it looks a lot less severe when the light is on a more neutral color. And you can see there's some dust buildup even on the CPU, but I wouldn't call it horrible. But it'll depend. Like some people might have opinions where a little bit of dust is really bad, and yeah, they're not gonna like this case. And what I've done as well is, you'll notice I removed the rear RGB fan. I actually put a 140mm fan here, and I've got a 140 in the top, but I'm probably gonna change them to all RGB just to match the RGB on the front, even though I keep them off most of the time, honestly. I normally just run it like that, so it's really subtle. But if I do want to look inside the case, at least, you know, having the option of all synced RGB is nice, and it does sync up with the Deepcool RGB remote, so I can kind of change. There we go. I'm using just the Deepcool remote this time, and I can mix and match the colors a bit. That's a nice one. See, if I set that, that's on blue on the remote, and it actually changes the case lighting to a light blue and the front to red, which kind of matches really well. But yeah, so hopefully that helps some people out if they're wondering about how bad the dust is. Just going back to white, I'm looking here. I've wiped here, so we have to look over near this area. I'll take this, holding the phone stand. So you can see on the white light, there is actually a bit of dust buildup here too, on the shroud. Not so much on the mesh. I guess it's being, I don't know, sucked down or pushed up somewhere. There's hardly any on this mesh area. Only on the solid flat bits dust has settled. But I haven't like wiped here where the mesh is. And you can see there's dust further back, but there's really a tiny bit on the mesh. Oh, I can see a little bit on top of the PSU itself. But it's not too bad. Like up on the back here, there's even, like, I can see it with my naked eye, like a bit of dust, but it's like specks of like fabric type dust, the really fine dust that you can't really see properly without staring closely. Like if I stand back like 3 feet, I can't see any dust there on the wall. But I do expect dust here. See where the intake of the CPU fan is? I mean, that's normal. You'd expect some dust to get through. Unless you have a super fine filter, like a Silverstone. The Silverstone filters are really fine, like finer than fly screen. So if you really hate dust, that's the kind of filter you'd go. Let's see if I can see the Cryorig H7 plus fins. They look fairly clean. I mean, there's a bit of dust from my old case that's actually in the fins already, because I never took the fans off and cleaned it all out when I swapped it into this case, because it's a bit of a hassle. So yeah, what else can I share? I guess if you're still watching now, I might as well share the Orbis controller, because I've had people asking about it. And I'll just timestamp this. So if I take this side off, and you can see the cable management, that's really horrible. Well, my cable management, which is horrible. The spacing is actually decent. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, I haven't tidied this at all. But there's an ample amount of room, I'd say. Like, see this thick CPU cable, CPU power cable? It's got enough room to just be pushed. I don't know, it's managing, like, I think it pushes like this from the side panel. There's like a good half inch of space, and it just fits on. Anyway, this is the Orbis controller, and it's the same as the regular Orbis controller that they sell with 120mm fans. It's just by default. With this case, it's got the 200 and the 120 at the rear plugged in. So right now I've only got the two 200s here on these two connectors, and you know, it's got some fans. The fan speed is just 2. It's low or high, and the remote does it, so you know, you don't really need to mess with any of these. So here we have the LED switch, which is actually the front LED button, which is on top of the case here. So if I press that, it changes colors if I don't want to use the remote, and it changes to more of the pattern types. It's not like for solid colors. Maybe if I press it 50 times. And then PWM 4-pin, which goes to the motherboard, and that's for your software reading of the fan speed, but the problem is it doesn't actually work with the 120 plugged in, because you've got the readout of the 200 millimeter fans and the 120, which is obviously they're going to be different speeds. So when you plug the PWM in for fan readings, software can't read the right fan speed because the controller is giving out two different signals. So when I unplugged the 120, and I've just got my 140 plugged in directly, when I unplugged the 120 and just have the 200s in there, then my RPM popped up on fan control software. And that also you can also set your BIOS fan speeds with this, with the 4-pin plugged into the motherboard. But it's just optional. Like, I could unplug this and the LED switch at the front would stop working, but I'd still be able to control fan speed with the remote. And up here, this is power for the receiver and the Molex, which is somewhere, I think, down here. Molex power for which is powering the 200 millimeter fans and the controller. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And I've also mounted my SSDs just at the back. So yeah, nothing too special here. One of the cable mounting clips came loose. I did try to do a bit of routing, but I never finished because I got bored. So yeah. Anyway, hopefully that helps out. And yeah, that's the dust buildup after 1 month. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and like and subscribe if you learned anything from the video, or dislike it if it was annoying because of my rambling, and see you in the next one.